Stay with the selection train, you can't be wrong. One love.
Okay, so we come to number 5 in our roundup of 10 essential Studio One LPs. Most of what I've been dealing with is roots music with a kind of Rasta tinge, truth and rights, lyrics, heavy roots rhythms. And this is a little bit of an exception. This is from the late 70s era, a collection of Carlton and the Shoes work, which is a bit later than most of them were released. But this is really one of the seminal LPs to come out of Studio One. Most people would agree, I think. And it's lovers' music over very deep rhythms. The rhythms are pure roots music, really. I mean, they're on the softer side. They're major key, but still, I'll put this up there with the Wailers in terms of harmonies. Obviously, the Wailers cut their teeth as a kind of harmony group before Bob's big success. They were massive in Jamaica just as a vocal group, covering a lot of soul things to start with. And Carlton and the Shoes kind of followed in their footsteps. They've got beautiful harmonies going on. Carlton Manning is Carlton of Carlton and the Shoes. His two brothers actually left the group to form the Abyssinians, of course, one of the monumental roots groups of Jamaica. The Abyssinians first cut their teeth at Studio One with the mighty Satamasagana, probably the anthem of roots music, Satamasagana, the Abyssinians, which they recorded at Studio One along with most of their earlier work and released on their own imprints, Clinch label. Things coming on vinyl 7-inch on that label. A lot of Abyssinians, mighty productions to look out for. And you can really hear the Abyssinians actually in Forward Jerusalem, the last tune on this LP, Carlton and the Shoes. You can really hear the Abyssinians forming as they did in the earlier days when they were Carlton and the Shoes. Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful roots track, deep spiritual vibe on that one. Incredible. One of the best tunes to come out of Carlton and the Shoes for me anyway. Definitely one of the deeper roots outings of the time. So yeah. If we have a look at the track listing. So pretty much all of the tracks on this LP were previously released on 45, and Carlton and the Shoes made quite a smash with their first releases before this LP came out. So these were already tried and tested by the time of this LP's release. Love Me Forever was their smash hit. This is the first tune that they hit big with. Probably told Coxsone he was onto a good thing and led to him recording them much more. Love Me Forever is just a classic rhythm. There's many versions on Studio One imprint alone, but also just in reggae music in general. It's one of the biggest smash tunes of early reggae, really. Love Me Forever, which came paired on a 45 originally with their Happy Land, which is the blueprint for Satamasagana, in fact. So you could see already the Abyssinians being born from Carlton and the Shoes, even in their first release. The second track, Never Give Your Heart Away, comes on a 12-inch, this devastating tune. It's just so deep, sublime lyrics and delivery, very reminiscent of the Wailers on something like I'll Be Waiting. Yeah, just really deep music, can't recommend that enough. Tunes like Love Is All and Just Me, they were Coxsone releases before this era, so they've kind of been rejigged for this LP. Again, overdubs added, which some people might not be keen on at all compared to the original 45s. But the Jamaican release of the LP originally actually had overdubs. The first press has overdubs, and the later Peckings UK press is a split stereo mix but without the overdubs. So the overdubs are kind of baked into this release. Even from the first press, they had actually added the overdubs to the original Jamaican mixes that were released on 45. So the other massive tune on this, other than Love Me Forever and Never Give Your Heart Away, you've got Love to Share, which is a stone cold classic. Some people have relicked this to great effect. Let me think of them. DB Music, Love to Share, Carlton and the Shoes themselves did that cut for Dennis Brown, later kind of rockers cut with Sly and Robbie Rhythm. That's a real killer. There's also a cut released on Fred Locke's Nebuchadnezzar LP, I think it is, by Cherry Rock, Love to Share Cherry Rock, which is a kind of orthodox 12 Tribes cut of it, really deadly. I've got some dub cuts of that blew me away. Really heavy stuff. Love to Share itself, the studio one. There's a few real heavy mixes of this to find. One of them, Smoking Joe, the Black Ivories on an Ironside 7-inch. I think that's the first cut. That's the original instrumental kind of horns cut. Real killer that. Yeah, really one to look out for. Turns up for not too much money and a real find. The rhythm of this really hits me, this tune, Love to Share. And there's actually a 12-inch cut by the Silvertones, Cheating and Lying, which takes it onto another level of roots music. It's a real deep roots lyric about the state of the world and goes into full 12-inch dubplate style mixes. There's a rare 12-inch that comes on the other side of Dennis Brown. No Man is an Island also comes with a kind of dubplate style mix. Real heavy 12 that. So it goes to show, but Love to Share really did make a big impact on the world of roots music. So even though this is lovers music, these are monumental tunes, even when you're looking at just the roots style. So as I said, it finishes with Forward Jerusalem, which is much more the Abyssinians sound than Carlton and the Shoes, more soft lovers outings. Any roots fans are going to love that, no doubt about that. So let's just have a quick word about the pressings. This is the original Jamaican pressing I came up across, which certainly looks like the late 70s. This one has overdubs all over it. Some of them you might consider annoying. I quite like them. Love to Share sounds good with the overdubs to me, but maybe some of the others could have done without it. Love Me Forever is not really exciting with overdubs, to be honest. So this is a bit of a mixed bag. I really like some of the deeper tunes. Don't suffer too much from the overdubs. Love to Share particularly, I really like the mix on this. And it sounds more kind of dubplatey, more dub style. When you're playing it alongside the Silvertones, this one sounds really nice. Never Give Your Heart Away. You need that in some form. The 12-inch is a big, rare one. You're not going to find that easily. It also comes on a 7. Might be a little bit easier to find, particularly on a slightly later repress one, although that still goes for a bit of money. So yeah, to have these tunes collected on one LP is definitely a bonus. Hunting them down on 45 is pretty difficult. For some reason, Carlton and the Shoes always seems to go for big money, even for tunes that I don't particularly rate, to be honest. But with the Love Me Forever, Never Give Your Heart Away, Love to Share and Forward Jerusalem, and also a good few more Lovers tunes that you might like a lot more than me. But for me, this LP is essential for those 4 only. The other pressing that I have is a UK Peckings release. So Mr. Peckings, of course, was a big man in the Studio One business. He had close links, was a close friend of Coxsone. Came to the UK with a suitcase full of Studio One sometime in the 60s and made a life here, opening Peckings' shop, of course, mecca for Studio One collectors. Get yourself along there if you've never been there. Askew Road. The Peckings brothers still around. Of course, George Peckings died a few years ago. We're going to be covering some of their releases later in this list again. I've got an LP that was actually a tribute to Peckings to cover. But so Peckings put this LP out in the UK with a different mix. This is actually a split stereo mix, which if you're not familiar means more or less the rhythm in one side of the stereo and the vocals in the other side. Not usually there's a bit of crossover, but more or less you're listening to the voice from your right side and the rhythm from your left side. These can be a bonus because it actually means you can mix your own versions of a tune if you know what you're doing. You can isolate the channels, bring them into mono, and then mix a dub with the vocal coming in and out, which some people have endlessly done in this business. I won't mention any names, but yeah, you can then pass it off as a dub plate cut if you're that way inclined. So yeah, this is a nice version of the LP. It hasn't got the overdub, so a lot of people would prefer this. There's no little noises in the background. It's just heavy rhythm. I'm not really into split stereo. I don't like the way it sounds being split in half, really. I'd prefer to play those in mono, but I just do that and they sound fine. So you can just, even if you're not particularly into split stereo, you could just play it mono if you've got that facility on your amp or whatever you're playing through. This is a nice clean press, and the likelihood of finding the Jamaican original presses is quite low. They don't turn up often and they're expensive. There's definitely a lot of represses of this LP. There's a few CD ones, there's ones with bonus tracks. So do a bit of investigating. But in its basic form, this is a real good introduction into one of the real stalwart groups that built Studio One in the 70s.